Have you noticed something that feels almost too perfectly timed to be a coincidence? A narcissist leaves your life and completely disappears, and you don't hear from them for months. And during that time, you're devastated, you're crying, you're revisiting old memories, you're looking at all the old photos and videos, and wondering whether you even meant anything to them or not. You keep checking your phone all the time to see if they've texted you, but all you see is silence. But then something strange happens. Months later, you finally started feeling better, you're doing better, you're not thinking much about them, and you even slowly stop checking their social media and even imagine a future that doesn't include them. And almost out of nowhere, your phone rings and it's the text from that person that you've spent months trying to forget. And when that happens, almost everyone asks the same question: why now? Did they suddenly realize my value? Do they want to get back with me now? Have they actually realized what they've lost? Or is this the proof that they've loved me all along and now they're coming back to me? And I actually don't think that these are few of the most interesting questions. I think the real question is this: what changes psychologically between the day when a narcissist leaves you and the day that they come back? Because if nothing has fundamentally changed in them, then why are they returning after months rather than coming back the next day? And if something did change, was it in them or was it something in you all along? And to answer that, first we need to look at something that almost everyone misunderstands about a relationship. We assume that when people miss someone, it's actually because they're missing that person. But psychologically, that is not always true. So let's start with the biggest question that people probably ask after a narcissistic relationship. Do they actually miss me? And yeah, my answer is sometimes, but it's probably not the way that you're imagining. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is that we assume that just because someone misses us, it automatically means that they love us. And in an emotionally healthy relationship, those two experiences definitely overlap. You miss someone because you value who they are. You miss their personality, you miss their presence, you miss their sense of humor, you miss how they made you feel. And you even miss the life and the little rituals that you made together. But narcissist relationships very often work on completely different psychological mechanisms. Human beings don't just become attached to the people. We become attached to the psychological functions or roles that people play in our life. So let's think about coffee for a second. Nobody wakes up craving the roasted beans. What they miss or what they're looking for is actually the alertness, the comfort, the familiarity, or maybe even the little time they have sitting in the corner trying to read something while sipping coffee. Now in this case, coffee is simply a psychological mechanism that makes you have all of these experiences. And a lot of times relationships also work the same way for us. So sometimes what a narcissist person misses is not actually you. They miss the experience that they were having with you. They miss what your presence allowed them to stop feeling. Yeah, stay with that for a minute. Maybe your reassurances protected them from their own insecurities. Maybe your love made them feel like they're on a pedestal. Or maybe you being emotionally dependent on them made them feel powerful. And also maybe that your emotional availability for them meant that they never have to sit alone. Maybe your forgiveness meant that they never had to actually take ownership or face the consequences of their actions. The list can go on and on. But in simple words, they can genuinely feel your absence without actually grieving for you as a person. And that's why I often tell my clients to stop asking that, do they miss me? Because that question in reality doesn't actually tell very much. The more revealing question would be that what exactly are they missing? Because someone can miss your attention, your validation, your love, your loyalty, your emotional labor without ever actually missing your inner world, your dreams, and how you are exactly as a person. And that is a very different kind of attachment. And now the most dreaded question, that why do they finally come back when you're actually starting to heal? Now let's come back to the timing, because I think that is where things become psychologically interesting. That why, when you start moving on, why not months ago when you were crying and begging for them? So people often tell me, and honestly it could be you as well, that it almost feels like they could sense that you were moving on and that's when they decided to come back. And I totally get why it might feel that way, because the timing feels completely uncanny. But yeah, I don't think narcissists have the mystical ability to actually guess if you're moving on. And I think it's something much, much simpler happening beneath the surface. One of the most overlooked things about attachment is that the relationship does not end in your nervous system when you actually verbally break up with each other. The breakup may happen on a random Monday, but your nervous system might not catch up for the next 6 months. That's why you keep checking your phone and keep thinking about them even though you know that the breakup was right. And you might even keep mentally rehearsing those conversations that you know you'll probably never have. And funnily, I know all of us have done this at some point. We keep imagining bumping into them at random places. And that's because your body is still organized around the feeling that probably they're still coming back to you. So, healing that we look at in the conventional sense, it's not just about feeling less sad. So, the actual healing is your nervous system slowly pulling back the emotional investment it had in this relationship and with that person. And here's the fascinating part. As long as you're psychologically organized around someone, the dynamic has not actually changed because you're still emotionally available to them. Even when there's no contact, you are still thinking about them all the time. But one day, without even realizing, something shifts. You stop checking your phone, you stop thinking that much about them, you stop waiting for them, and you even stop needing an explanation from them. And for the first time since your relationship has ended, you actually feel a little bit emotionally lighter. And it feels like your emotional energy is finally yours again. And that's when they come back. It's not because your healing magically called them back, but because the dynamic that they had become accustomed to, maybe you calling them, following up with them, and maybe even checking their stories, has changed. For months, the narcissist knew that they had psychological access to you, even though you guys were not really directly speaking. And now they don't have that. And losing that for a narcissist is losing a different kind of control altogether. So, was it really love, or was it just about losing control all this while? And honestly, I think this question now changes everything. When a narcissist comes back, are they actually coming back because they love you, or because they now want to have the control again that they once lost? And the reason why this question might feel pretty hard to answer, because from the outside, love and control can often seem very nicely gift wrapped together. They feel pretty identical because both of them involve texting you, being with you, making promises to you, apologizing to you, or even suddenly becoming extremely affectionate. But psychologically, both these things are driven by completely different motivations. Because love is concerned primarily with connection, and control is primarily concerned with access. And that is why these two things are not the same. Someone who loves you wants to understand you even when it is uncomfortable or inconvenient to them. They respect your boundaries because your autonomy matters to them. When someone loves you, they can hear a no without feeling threatened or attacked. But control works very differently. Control is not trying to understand your boundaries, it is actually trying to negotiate with them. Sit with that for a second. Try and think about it. Every time you set a boundary with a narcissist, what happened? Does the person become curious as to why you need it? Or do they become dramatic about how your boundary is unnecessary, inconvenient, and start questioning you that are you putting boundaries because you don't love them anymore? Because these are two completely different conversations happening. One conversation is about understanding you, and the other conversation is about regaining their access to you. And I think that is where survivors accidentally misunderstand intensity for love. When someone starts calling you every day, starts writing intense long messages, starts promising you that they would never do something again to hurt you, it feels extremely convincing to you because intensity equals to urgency. And your brain naturally interprets urgency as importance. But to be real, psychologically, intensity and consistency have absolutely nothing to do with each other. For example, a forest fire is incredibly intense, but a sunrise is not. One lasts for a couple of hours and one happens every day. Healthy love looks much more like a sunrise rather than a forest fire. Love is predictable, love is stable. It doesn't just happen or it doesn't just get shown when they're about to lose something, it happens every day. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making is that they feel that just because the person is trying harder than ever to get you back, it means they finally realize the love for you. Maybe. But maybe there is another possibility. Maybe they're trying harder because for the first time their usual strategies have stopped working. So then why does it feel so convincing when they come back to you after so many months? Now, if you've ever gone back to someone who you knew was unhealthy for you, I'm going to say something and I'm going to hope that I remove a little bit of shame from you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you were weak or that you were stupid, and definitely doesn't mean that you secretly enjoy being treated badly. In fact, I think most people dramatically underestimate just how persuasive hope can be. One of the things for which our brains are designed to is to constantly keep making predictions for the future. And so every interaction becomes an evidence. When someone has disappointed you 10 times and when they come back the next time apologizing to you in all the ways that you've dreamed of, your brain starts creating new predictions that maybe now the reality would be different. Maybe this time they will be different, or that maybe this time they finally understood. And maybe this version of them that I've always believed exists under the surface has now finally come up. And here's the part that I find most fascinating is that sometimes people are not actually attached to a narcissist. They're actually attached to the possibility of who they would become, or if they would ever become the person that they've always been hoping for. And so eventually you're no longer in love with the person that is standing in front of you. You are in love with the future that your brain has started to imagine. The way that they keep acting flaky all the time and the way that this imagined future keeps changing all the time, that unpredictability actually strengthens the attachment. And suddenly you realize something quite painful. You were not actually grieving who they were. You were grieving who you thought they would eventually become. And those two things are very different. And that can feel like a very different loss. Because you cannot let go of fantasy using evidence. A fantasy doesn't exist in reality. A fantasy exists in possibility. And a possibility is extremely difficult to mourn because it was never real in the first place. So how do you know that they've actually changed? So after everything that I've just spoken about, we finally come to the question that matters the most, which is not do they want me back, do they miss me, and not even do they love me, but the question that I have been encouraging you to ask all along. What has objectively changed in this person that wasn't in them 6 months ago? Notice I didn't ask that whether they seem different. I asked you what actually changed. Because having insight is not the same as transformation. Somebody can genuinely realize that they've hurt you and they can make you feel that they've changed. That doesn't automatically mean that they've now finally acquired the skills to stop emotionally hurting you. So somebody can apologize, someone can cry, someone can make another promise, and someone can even believe every word they are saying in the moment because in that moment they mean it. But none of these things predict long-term change. What actually predicts change is whether this new behavior survives in everyday ordinary life. Does it survive the everyday stress? Does it survive the conflicts? Does it survive the disappointments? Does it survive hearing the word no? Because anyone can behave differently for 2 weeks, but the real transformation has to be something that lasts every day. And real transformation is measured in patterns and not in promises, which is why in therapy we often work on the behavioral changes rather than just the emotional ones. Because patterns tell you who somebody is becoming, and moments only tell you how someone felt that day. So if there's one thing that I'd like you to take away from this video, it's this. I don't think the most important question after a narcissistic relationship is to ask whether they're coming back. Because people can come back with all different kinds of reasons. Loneliness, habit, validation, fear, control, regret, etc., etc. And sometimes even genuine longing. But the most important question is the psychological pattern that created this relationship has actually changed or not. Because if the pattern has not changed, then the ending doesn't change either. And finally, I'd like to leave you with one thought that I always tell my clients. Don't measure someone's love by how desperately they are trying to get back into your life. Measure it by the emotional safety that your nervous system feels around them. Because the goal of healing is not to be able to recognize whether the narcissist will return, but the goal is to build a life where your nervous system no longer mistakes the emotional intensity for consistency and love. And once that happens, something beautiful changes. You stop asking yourself, why did they come back? And you start asking that, does this relationship deserve access to the person that I've worked so hard to become? And I think that question will actually change lives.